I wasn't an Apple, but I thought
Mm.
that they were too concentrated in iPhones and that they weren't using their liquidity to do enough R&D. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
Apple could have pivoted into medical devices to earn a much more sustainable return, whether through a
Mm.
joint venture or on their own. They could
So you
have
don't see the
partnered with
Apple
an
Watch
entity
as
like
the medical
Siemens.
device?
They could have done much more than that, is what I'm saying. There are so many
Mm.
medical innovations that still need to happen in terms
Mm-hmm.
of medical devices and tracking health that Apple
Mm-hmm.
has the liquidity to fund, but they're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just focused on the consumer product side and kind of just leave there. So I do think the Apple Watch is a breakthrough, but they could have done a lot more niche products to accelerate that side of the business. So if I was managing that balance sheet, that's where my head would be. I'm just putting it out there, giving
But do you
an
think
example.
that, for me, Apple, a lot of times they aren't really the first mover? It's more someone else does it. Apple watches them and then says, "Okay, we're gonna do it the Apple way." So it's almost like
Yeah, they do it better.
that's kind of their MO, isn't it?
You know what's also crazy too, for Apple is I think now they've diversified a bit more in terms of less focus on the iPhone specifically and more on services and so on. And even with this new MacBook that they launched, I don't know if you saw about Neo.
Oh yeah.
It's like a $500
That's a
laptop.
really good.
I think that's
Ton of
game
tech
changing
people are
because
saying
you're
that's a
undercutting.
huge deal.
Yeah, like it for the price, and then you're undercutting your competitors at that price, like Chromebooks and so on. And I think based on how massive Apple is as a company, they're gonna get a huge market share. Because before that, the cheapest MacBook was like $1,000. Now you can get
Yeah.
one for $500. If you're a student, I think it's $500 or so.
It's a function of competitive pressure. That's not
Mm-hmm.
always a bad thing. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I just think their playbook is outdated. And you asked me, Preston, if I thought that
Mm-hmm.
they just wait to improve things. I would say generally, yes, I agree with that view. But sometimes the way they repurpose products goes a step further. Remember, they kind of created the smartphone in terms of what it is now. They were the ones who came with the no button thing. What we have taken
Mm-hmm.
for granted, like this whole thing where the phone doesn't have
Oh,
buttons and it's just a screen, that is Apple.
you
This was
you
not what
know,
it was. Remember,
yeah,
BlackBerry was
you're
standing
BlackBerry.
thinking
before
of
that.
Yeah.
Apple. You're thinking of Apple as like pre and post Steve Jobs Apple, which you're right, because
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Steve Jobs he was an innovator, like
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
so I get
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
But
think they
I was
could
just making a
easily step
specific
into
example.
medical devices.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
They need
Yeah,
to.
I get that.
They need to. No, they need to
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of
because
medical devices? Like, give me an example.
No, but all right, Meds Preston, they have their AirPods now can be used as hearing aids. Like
Oh, that's what you mean.
that's
Okay.
very like low hanging fruit. No, it could be so many different things. Could be
the
sensors, could be
possibilities are
anything.
endless.
What
The
I
Mm-hmm.
possibilities
always
are
was
endless.
what I always was thinking was that I think one of the next big things that the Apple Watch should try to do, if the Apple Watch could estimate your blood glucose or your blood sugar, that would be a game changer. Huge game changer. Because think about this being able all that. Imagine if that could. I know it won't be obviously as accurate as like a pinprick and stuff, but or
Well,
central sample. But if it
you
could, imagine any diabetic. Think of that. Almost any diabetic would
No,
want something like that.
so
Oh, go.
from my research of doing sensors like that, right? Have you seen continuous glucose monitoring
Yeah.
devices
Mhm.
where you have the? I'm pretty sure Apple could make. It's probably a software thing, like an API thing, where you
I don't think it's
connect
just
it
software.
to
You would need to
your.
you'd need to redevelop the sensor. You'd have to rebuild the sensor.
You think so?
The existing sensor, yeah. Because think about it. They
But
have
you
the
have
heart
the
rate
existing
sensor.
sensor.
No, but it's a completely
Mhm.
different sensor.
I did it in real time around this because it just proves my point. If it wasn't possible, you wouldn't even be debating. It's where they need to
True.
go. Even if they need to create like a separate vehicle for it, as I said, and do it through a joint venture or whatever the case may be, then fine.
Facts.
But they need to do it. They have,
No, you're right.
they have so much liquidity. They have a hedge fund just to manage their liquidity called Braeburn Capital.
Well, what's the name of it?
Mm.
Braeburn?
Braeburn.
Oh, okay.
Braeburn.
I didn't know
It's a
that.
scientific part of an apple that's inside. It's a part of the
Oh, that's
apple's
brilliant.
capital. It's called Braeburn capital.
Oh wow.
So nerdy
Yeah.
and brilliant.
All they do,
Yeah.
it's crazy. All they do is manage apple's liquidity. That's their
Yeah, wholly owned.
everything.
I see it on Wikipedia.
Mm.
Founded 20 years
Yep.
ago, wholly owned subsidiary of Apple Inc. Oh,
Nah, you're right though,
interesting.
because Apple is so health. They're promoting a lot of health products. I think they could be the lead innovator in wearables and just health technology and
You don't
so
think they
on.
are the lead in wearables?
Isn't it Siemens?
Wearables.
Wearables?
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I'll be well. When I think wearables, I think like stuff like Loop or the Pixel or I guess it depends what it's called lead. Like in terms of just number of devices, I would assume Apple Watch, but I can fact check that.
Yeah, true. But they can.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it says Apple. Actually, I'm seeing something here that says Apple is 22.8%, and then Xiaomi is next. But
Mm.
I don't know, yo. You're right. Apple can do it in terms of pushing in. Because I mean,
Actually,
what's the point of this big AI boom and all of these things if we're not actually
What is the point of the AI boom?
doing good for the human race? You know, like
yes.
I don't know.
What is the point of the
is
AI
always
boom?
gonna be companies will always chase profits, and I get that, but I still think there's a lot of money within healthcare. Like even look how many diabetics are in the world. Everybody knows somebody with diabetes. All of us know at least 5 people with diabetes, maybe. You know, or 3 people at least. So that could be game changing for Apple. You know how like AirPods took over the Bluetooth earphone market like overnight?
Yo, you know how many people will say, instead of even saying earphones or earbuds, they just say AirPods?
AirPods.
Like they just call earphones AirPods. That's just a thing. Think about that.
Yeah.
Powerful marketing.
That's when your product reaches critical mass and you become your product now becomes the reference point for that entire product category. But again, I'll go back to the phone. Don't take this for granted. Like for most of existence, remember phones had buttons. This is like
keyboard
on the
this
screen.
has not been the case. Just over 10 years, we're starting to have phones that it's just a screen. And people hated it, but we just got used to it. That's an Apple innovation. There's so many others. Even the iPhone. Not the iPhone, sorry, the iPod. When the iPod came out, the iPod was like there was nothing like it. The sleekness of it.
Yeah, true. That was my first Apple device.
No man, it's amazing in terms of value for money. It was one of their best moves commercially.
Yeah.
There were people that used that
you know what's
years
interesting
later.
though?
Came out. Yeah. No, because it's
What did you say,
amazing,
Preston?
Preston.
I'm saying people used it even years later, like 10, 15 years, they still had their iPod because they had a lot of storage on it and it worked.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because Apple came out with the iPhone, which kind of killed the iPod. Like, because it could do everything the iPod could do. But it don't matter, you know, like, because I don't know, man. It's a great company. If I were to invest, I don't invest on the US market, but if I were to invest in a company, it's Apple I'll be looking at, especially now based on global RAM prices being hiked, and their computers still being around, like their laptops are still around the same price. And then they introduce Neo. I think they're gonna get a ton more users, and those ton more users are gonna feed right into their services because they're gonna need Apple storage. They're gonna buy apps off the App Store and so on. I just think it would funnel a lot of money right into Apple when all these other competitors are, you know, throwing a fit because Apple teeth them food. As Julian said, kick where them foot, you know.
What I would say was really cool about it was that do you know which processor the MacBook Neo, the new MacBook, the budget one that you're talking about, do you know which processor it uses?
Yeah, it's the A18.
It's a phone
So
processor. It's the
it's a
same
phone
older
processor. Yeah,
phone
it's like
processor. Yeah. So it's like
in
you're
the iPhone
repurposing.
16
So
or so on, or 17
yeah, or one I think 16 Pro, yeah, like 16 or 16
Pro.
Pro.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they can just
Yeah.
use the same chip can run, because even things like I think the iPad, I think the chip
Mm-hmm.
that runs the Mac, like it's like say M4, M5 or whatever. It's like the iPad runs
Yeah.
that same chip. So it's like I feel like
Yeah.
there
The
could be a
iPad's
point
overpowered.
where it's just a single chip where it's just M4, M5, M6, M7. It's just that could be run they could run all the laptops, all the phones, all of that stuff is just one chip. So it's like they can
Yeah,
get
but
a
it
big,
would be
I
it
guess,
would be
big
cheaper
cost
for them to
savings.
do that. So I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cheaper for
Huge
them
cost
to
savings from that.
centralize it that way. It's just like
Yeah.
car manufacturers that use the same engine across different models. It's cheaper because it's very hard to build a
Mm-hmm.
reliable engine. Just reliable. Not even talking
Or
about cost
SpaceX.
efficiency and power. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
same thing with SpaceX too. Before with companies that created like rockets and so on, it was hard for them to compete in terms of like, one flight to the moon or one liftoff to the moon. I don't know what it's actually called, would cost millions and millions of dollars, but SpaceX could do it at a fraction of the price because they built everything themselves. And so it's the same with Apple, where they build all the hardware, the chips, everything. It's their own devices. They designed it specifically for their ecosystem and so on. So when you look at a Windows computer, where one chip is probably made by Samsung or Qualcomm or Intel, and then this, the motherboard is made by Wearable, and then the screen is made by Samsung, and so on. All of those other companies that you have to buy from, they have to make profit on those things that they're selling you. So in terms of margins, Apple's margins must be much greater than all the other players who they have to buy piece from different companies. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Apple's
Yeah.
a beast of a company.
Yeah.
Beast.
Yeah. It's